All right. Welcome us every single Wednesday that we have, our real estate talks here, is nothing more than just having a conversation basically. And, feel free to, ask questions if you have questions, regarding the topic that we're going to be covering today. And today, we're going to be covering something that it's really important. It's important to cover. It's important to mention. It's important to obviously, be able to know about it. It's the 5 common mistakes that real estate investors are making and how to avoid them. So first and foremost, for the people that don't know me, my name is Raul Luna. I was born in San Francisco, but I was raised in Mexico. Just a little bit of a background so that you get to know me just slightly better is, I came back to America when I was about 8.5 years of age. Very grateful with my parents, very grateful that they thought about me being born in this great, amazing country so that, I could have, every angle possible, that I could have to succeed, but also having the best of both worlds because I was raised in Mexico. I was able to see, outside of our country, I was able to see how people live, how people work, the sacrifices that we had to take. I don't come from a wealthy family, in regards to money. I wasn't born with a silver platter. And I'm sharing this because if a farm boy from a farm town currently living in Modesto is able to make, real estate, a playing field or the game of its life, anybody who has a hunger, who has a desire, who has a passion for succeeding in life has the same opportunities, regardless of what background you come from. Doesn't matter, whether, you may know great English or not. I barely graduated from high school. Didn't have any college whatsoever. I remember my dad telling me, Raul, just finish high school. And after that, you're free to do whatever the heck you want out of your life. I remember back then that I was very happy about that. Later on, I realized that it's not that I didn't like school, it's that I just didn't like what school educates you on, that I do like education, that I do like to personally develop myself. It wasn't just, it was the fact that I just didn't like what the system, the educational system is teaching out there. And it's the truth. Basically, you get taught things that more than likely you're not gonna need in life. And I took a different path. Doesn't mean it's the only path. It means that that's the path that I chose. So basically, here I am, right? Doing these webinars with you guys, sharing experiences, sharing what I've done in life, how I do business. So anything that you hear me say or anything, ladies and gentlemen, just so that you guys know, I'm not a real estate attorney or any or an attorney in general or a CPA. So, just take it for what it is. Put it to practice if you see tremendous value. My entire goal is to deliver value that you can implement right away and see great results in your life so that you can make more money, so that you can have a much more abundant life out there and be able to live well. I think you were born, we all were born to live amazingly, but it's a decision. It's a decision that we're gonna, have to take. And that decision is not merely by words, but by actions. You must take action, or else whatever you're saying doesn't mean anything. There's more power into actions than there ever will be in words. Although words, words are powerful, but actions speak louder. They tell you a stronger story, behind it. So it's important to embrace both, and be out there, obviously paying close attention. So I'm excited for what I'm going to share today. And these mistakes are mistakes that I personally experienced as I was starting with my real estate journey. I started real estate when I was about 18, going to my 19th birthday. So it's been quite a while, almost 2 decades. I've seen the ups and downs. I've been up and down, and I've felt it. I've made it and I've lost it, and we've come back with a stronger attitude, with a stronger mindset, with a stronger infrastructure and strategy. So, hopefully you can understand, and really learn from not only the mistakes of others, but you're going to experience these mistakes if you haven't started in this journey, or you're already experiencing it. or you will realize soon as I'm sharing it, what is it that I'm talking about. So let's cover mistake number one. Mistake number one is having a poor lead flow. When I first started in my career, one of the things that I immediately took notice, it was that I wasn't getting deals accepted, or I will submit offers, but the offers, it was very minimal. I thought that if I did 2 or 3 offers, that I was going to get 1 or 2 deals, and it didn't happen that way. I learned in the process that I had to do a lot of offers. But then to do a lot of offers, I had to have a lead flow. And immediately I noticed that my lead flow was extremely poor, that I was lacking good deals crossing my hands or crossing my desk that I could analyze and submit offers to. I was doing everything, checking online or in the MLS, and basically at the time, depending on the market, like when I first got in, the market was slightly competitive, but coming with a slight down. It was right when the Twin Towers collapsed. It was back in 2000, 99, 2000, 2001, when I wanted it to, basically be a real estate investor and start building my wealth through real estate. And little did I know back then that, one of the biggest mistakes that I realized going backwards, and my daughter sent me a text, by the way, yesterday, saying that that you understand life, when you look backwards. Like when I look backwards now, is like, wow, it was my mistake was not having enough lead flow. Now, the best way that I started doing that so that I can cure that was I started with direct mail. In my case, I started doing it in the only way that I knew or that I could at the time, because I didn't have money. I started doing my own letters. I remember that, I started printing them in my own printer at home. I was, I had my daughter, Jacqueline, at the time, my oldest one right now. Literally, she was helping me just by being there and folding the letters and doing little things and little stuff, and even licking the stamps and putting it. So I was doing about, 50 to 100 letters a week. And that's how I started. But see, the key factor here is I recognized that I had a very, that I had a poor lead flow. And basically I noticed that I needed to obviously solve that. And the best way that I could solve it was by direct mail. That was the very first thing that I did. It was direct mail. Second thing is I started doing, back then, I was doing, I was knocking doors on people that basically were behind on their mortgages. So I got a list of people that were behind, and I started knocking doors. I was extremely young at the time, and one of the biggest challenges that I encountered myself was that, they would ask me if I was legal to be buying real estate. And it was funny because I was hungry. I knew what I wanted. I just didn't have enough lead flow, and it was easier to blame it to the market, to blame it to, there's not enough deals. It was easier to blame it. Well, sellers may not be looking to sell at the time, but it wasn't that. Every market brings opportunity. Write that down. Every market, whether it's up or it's coming down, it's a zone for opportunity. It all depends with which kind of eyes you're actually looking at that market. So poor lead flow was a big mistake for me, and not resolving it rather quick. It took me almost 3 years to resolve that mistake, because I was only looking at one channel and one channel only. And the only channel was, basically it was back then it was MLS, not having and I'm not saying the MLS is bad. I'm saying that it was my only channel. And being the only channel on a very competitive market, you'll realize that people are going to, basically, bid up every property, and then more than likely, you're going to have to make more offers. You're going to have to obviously look at more deals, and you're going to have to, be further patient. The moment I started doing direct mail, the moment I started knocking doors, the moment I started, networking with other individuals, I started seeing a much larger lead flow and things started to flow. I will never forget that I received a call from one gentleman trying to sell me his worst property in the Central Valley. And, after talking with him for a few minutes, it was interesting because I learned really fast that he owned a lot of properties. He owned a big portfolio. And in one of those portfolios, he had a shopping center that he gave me the address. And I started obviously looking into the data, and I really liked it. And I remember going back to him and saying, listen, I will buy your worst property under one condition. You sell me your best property. I need to balance it off. You sell me your worst, sell me the best so that I can balance off the worst and the best. And the worst wasn't really that worst. It was just the fact that, he was managing it himself. He was tired. He didn't want to, the type of tenants he was getting was mainly Latino, and he wasn't Latino, so he had a hard time communicating with them. And all of a sudden, he just decided that, you know what, I'm just gonna sell it off. And last but not least, to make the long story short, he ended up selling the entire portfolio. Why am I sharing this story? Because that's my epiphany moment. That was the moment that I realized that it wasn't because there was a lack of deals. It was a lack of deal flow coming into my desk. And the only way to correct it, and it took me 3 years, was by putting at least, 3 to 5 channels of marketing campaigns, either through networking, either through MLS, through direct mail. I remember even doing some Post-its. I remember then, I don't do them anymore, but back then I was like, had Post-its that I would literally just put a note there and stick it on people's homes when I couldn't get them there. And guess what? So I would try every single thing. So I did 5 things. And I started getting more lead flow. And then another lead flow that I got deals from, it was calling for rent signs. It was interesting because the moment I became extremely active and proactive on looking for deals and making sure that I would have a vast of lead flow coming into my desk, I was able to make more offers. And as I was able to make more offers, guess what? I was able to get more deals. And as I was able to get more deals, things started to change. And ladies and gentlemen, mistake number 1, having a poor lead flow, got resolved, but it took me too long. I'm sharing it right now so that it doesn't take you that long. And then the second mistake, that most real estate investors make is lack of funding. Lack of funding was a big issue for me. At the time, I was trying to do everything that I could with what I got, with my only little, cents and, and hundreds that I was able to put together. And that's a fast way to staying small. Is the fast way to staying small because, it's a big mistake. Most investors have a lack of funding. Most investors, I notice that usually the biggest mistake that they do is they're looking for the deals, but they don't secure the funding. And I think it's something that you got to work, not only when you're looking for deals, but you got to be looking for funding as well at the same time. Once again, I corrected mistake number 1 in this case, but then I face obviously challenge number 2. And when I say mistakes, they're mistakes that they're correctable mistakes. They're mistakes that you could correct right away, like lack of funding. All you gotta do is basically network with people that have the money, that don't know what to do with those funds. Usually there's doctors, executives, there's, from tech people. From now these days is much easier than for me back then. Especially it's easier today when you're willing to grow yourself at a conscious level, at a spiritual level, at a personal level. For me, I wasn't growing in those areas, so I saw scarcity more than abundance. Today, I can tell you that there's abundance all over the world, all over the place, even in the most scarcest or more poorest places, you will see abundance there. Well, lack of funding, it's a huge mistake that most investors actually make, of not having it ready and available. Today I have a list. I got a list in my CRM. Whenever I have a deal, guess what? I shoot them an email, and today I have to tell them, if they don't act fast enough, I got to tell them, sorry, but let's wait for the next time. How cool is that? Now, I didn't start it that way. It started by obviously, talking to people and kind of finding out what, it was their interest and why will they want to be a part of real estate, and if their money was making obviously sufficient amount of money or not. Today's easier. Why? For many reasons, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the banks only pay what? Less than 1%. Back then, 18, 19 years ago, banks used to pay about 6, 7%. So it was a different atmosphere. I remember putting on CD, back then, $30,000. I blocked it for 1 year and I got like 6.9%. That's how I know that totally different times. But, that's the second mistake, is the lack of funding. And it's a challenge that if you don't overcome it, it's going to keep you small. To me, it took me quite a bit. It did, in fact, took me about five years to resolve it in a way where we could grow really, really fast. But one of the things was, the moment I learned that I could bring other people as either partners, we could either partner actively on the deal. Okay, that's how it started for me. And then from actively partnering, which was something that I started obviously so that I can start attracting more funding. Then I started doing, private money lending, meaning seeking out for people that will lend me money, after I did, few deals. And once again, today is easier. Why? There's a lot of education. When I first started, the only thing that it wasn't as available. It wasn't as easy as technology, as, internet has made it today. So, the easier it gets, sometimes the harder you see it, because it's so in front of you that we get blindsided. All right. Now, mistake number 3, not having, a great manager or a great contractor. Okay. The mistake number 3 is not having, whether you're going to, buy and hold, not having a great property manager, whether you're going to buy and flip, not having a great a general contractor. And that's crucial. Why? Imagine this. Doesn't matter if it's a single family home or if it's a apartment complex. I started it in the apartment complex, in the multifamily world. That's where I started it, and continue to do it more into the buy and hold, and soon realized really, really fast, really fast. I've got experiences personally where I gave the general contractor, now keep in mind, this is long time ago. We're talking about 15, 17 years ago. I cut a check to a contractor for the deposit, 50% of the deposit, and he left. He totally left. It was $100,000. I sued him. I won in court. They put him, I have a 10-year judgment. Probably the judgment is expired by now. The guy left to another country, and guess what? Couldn't do nothing. So now, guess what? Not being able to vet the contractor, the managers, not having great people in your, in your fix and flips or in your buy and holds is going to hurt you. And you got to take the time. Today, it's very important. If I'm hiring a contractor or a property manager, I got to interview them, not one, but for every 15 contractors that I interview, I end up hiring one. Now, keep in mind, let's go back to it. For every 15 contractors that I interview, I end up hiring one. Why? I'm very particular. I make sure that it's the right fit for the team, that they understand the systems that we implement. I make sure that the person has, and you'll see I'm going to cover towards the end what I call the I foresee you. and it's basically an acronym, a formula on how is it that I select teams, which is important for you to implement in your life, in your business in general. So guess what? The same thing with property managers. You know, I gotta interview so many, and then eventually we'll select one. But it's right around 15. Now that I've interviewed 15 property managers, 15 contractors, now I have, you know, where to choose from and to select what I believe it would be the best. And guess what? It turns out to be better, not perfect, but it turns out that it's a much better way of selecting, obviously, your candidates. In my case, if it's a contractor, I got to make sure that the license is valid, got to make sure that it's, you know, it's insured, got to make sure that it's bonded, got to make sure that they follow, you know, our 6 critical documents that I learned from one of my real estate academies that I attended to, you know, and things of that nature. If it's a property manager that I'm hiring, guess what? I got to make sure, you know, what is the largest property that you currently manage? What is the, you know, smallest property? You know, how large is your team? You know, I gotta basically ask all the questions. Is there insurance? If you know, errors and omission insurance? I mean, you bet. You got to make sure. And how do you think I learn all this? In my case, I learned it by making the mistakes. You know, 5 common mistakes. This is the interesting thing. Even though we know about it, knowing doesn't guarantee you're going to do it. Knowing doesn't guarantee you're going to do it. So if you know it and you're not doing it, then I suggest that it's better to, you know, it's much cheaper to implement while you probably haven't made those mistakes than after you've made them and learning the hard way. Okay, so anyways, so once again, you know, poor deal flow, that's mistake number 1. Number 2, lack of funding. Number 3 is not having the proper, you know, stunning property manager and or contractor. Okay, and number 4, mistake number 4 that I see out there, even today, you know, I make these mistakes, but I see it on other people because, you know, once you travel that road, it's easier to detect who is actually following that path or who's not. Mistake number 4, lack of knowledge of the market, lack of knowledge of the market that you're investing or that you're about to invest or that you want to invest. Very important. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best suggestions, because I did it, before I invest on any market, I go through about 200 deals. I actually analyze about 200 deals, and it's not just because I want to, you know, it's a waste of time. It's because I want to know what is the market saying, what is the market telling you from the price per square foot, from the properties that are fully renovated, from the properties that, you know, are in certain types of neighborhoods, or there's, you know, I can tell you stories. For instance, you know, one street, I remember investing one deal in one specific deal in LA that I personally didn't know. And guess what? One street made the entire difference from being at a high-end area to the average area. One street made the entire difference for a school district, for how properties were being resold. One street, one school district, the difference of about $300,000 to $400,000. Do you think that is a significant change? Trust me, it is. How do I know? Because I lost money on that deal. You know, so the mistake that I see, you know, over and over is lack of knowledge of that, of the market. And before, my advice is make sure that you actually go through, you know, a couple hundred deals, that you sincerely analyze, that you look at maps. You know, every time, this is what I do. When I get a deal, even until today, even if I know the market, because I feel really good about it, because I've been investing and buying quite a bit in that, even until today, I still go to Google, I put the address, I get a map, you know, of the area, I zoom out so that I can see the entire area, and then I zoom in, and then I do like an Earth Google view so that I can see the roof. I kind of get to see exactly what is on the surroundings so that I can learn about it. And then even until today, I call few agents, and say, hey, listen, what do you know? And the agents that I call is not just random agents. I actually have to select the ones that are the top sellers of the area because they're the ones that actually know more about that specific area. And I call them up and I ask them, I say, hey, listen, I'm looking to purchase a property in this vicinity. I'm actually evaluating a deal. What do you know about this market that I should be aware of? Those are the things that if you do that 200 times, trust me, you'll become an expert of that market, that you're going to be able, what are the benefits of becoming an expert and making sure that you know the area really, really well? Guess what? You're going to be able to make offers much faster, make decisions much sooner than the competitors. And because you're able to make those decisions faster, sooner, smarter, knowledgeable, you're going to be able to know exactly what's going on. Unlike in our LA deal, that basically one street made the entire difference, and I didn't do what now I do. Guess what? I still see it on many investors as a common mistake that they do over and over, and you can get burned, and it may cost you $100,000. It may cost you. A friend of mine cost him $400,000. A mistake. Mistakes that I'm telling you right now could save you from losing your shirt, and at the same time, it may not even save you if you don't apply any of them, right? So, mistake number four, lack of knowledge on the market. Mistake number 5, okay, construction evaluation. Not doing a thorough construction evaluation or renovation evaluation. Usually, for the most part, you're going to go above budget, for the most part. In certain situations or occasions, you can maybe land right at what you had it or slightly below. But if I were to take basically, over 100 deals that we've done in the past 18 months or so, I can tell you straight out that for the most part, there's always going to be certain level of unknown when you start tearing things apart. The unknowns is not what's scary. Is the fact that you don't take the time to really be extremely detailed at evaluating basically doing scopes of work or evaluating basically the work and bidding it right. If I was to show you, we just got a deal in Sparks, Nevada with one of my friends, and let me see if I'm able to find here, but I want to be able to show you on the screen if I'm able to show you. Give me a second. Let me see if I'm able to show you here. A scope of work that we did, give me a second. Hopefully I can find it here, and I want to show you so that you could see how is it that we do it, but give me a moment. Interesting. I don't see it, but hold on. Give me a second. Okay. I'm not finding it, but give me a second. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't find it, but anyways, I can, the scope of work that I do, and it's because I put it on Google Sheet. And you know what? Maybe, well, no, it is on Google Sheet. It is on Google Sheet. So what I did is this. I went through the scope of work, literally did it extremely detailed, that, when I start doing my bidding for contractors, I give that to them, and basically they're going to bid exactly what it is there, item by item. And once they bid everything item by item, I know that I'm going to get a very, very close outlook. So that's one of the other mistakes. Mistake number 5 is not making the construction evaluation, very thorough to the degree that, there's going to be differences. There's always going to be something that you're going to find out. That's irregardless. You don't know what is in between the walls. You just don't. I don't. The contractor don't. The home inspector won't. and it's just part of nature. You just have to have a level of tolerance there that you're okay with. Anyways, and so every single time I do the scope of work, every single time I do the scope of work to make sure that when I'm evaluating the renovation cost, it comes out very close to, to the numbers. And once the contractor gives me a formal bid, usually I like to get 3 bids, unless I'm already working with a contractor that I feel comfortable with. If I already got a stunning contractor, what I usually do is I tell them, listen, I got a budget. This is my budget. And this is the scope of work. Just let me know if you can do it or not. And usually, if you're reasonable, they'll say yes. And most often than not, they end up working with it. So that's mistake number 5, that, not doing the construction, the proper construction evaluation, doing it in a scope of work, very detailed, so that when you communicate that with your, either general contractor or your subs, you're able to have a clear answer as well, coming back. And I want to give you a bonus mistake number 6. Okay. Bonus mistake number 6 that I see very often out there, very often. And I've done them. Last one cost me a ton of money, but it was about 10 years ago. It's having the wrong partners. Having the wrong partners, it's one of the common mistakes that I see over and over and over again. And that's a bonus mistake right there. Now, one of the things that I do, just so that you know and you can implement it, I implement something that I called I foresee. Okay, it's not like I foresee, but it could be seen that way. I, for, and see. I, the letter I, the number 4, and the letter C. Okay, the I foresees. The I foresees stands for, this is exactly what I look in someone before they become a partner. Even in contractors, property managers, you can use it even for anything in life, really. But not many people sincerely know this, and if they do, they don't put it into practice anyways. How do I know this? 10 years ago, guess what? I got into a partner. One of my employees, back then my assistant, I made her a partner of a company that we established. And about 6-7 months later, we ended up splitting. I sold her the company. And because at the time I was a licensed professional, I was a licensed broker, I was the one that was being seen. Basically, she bought the company out of me. She then closed it, decided to do stupid crap. And then they came back to me and to her, to both, because I didn't follow this system or this formula that I'm about to share with you. And I'm being dead serious about this. When you partner up with people, okay, when you partner up with people, put it into practice. I cannot stress it enough. And I got people here in this webinar that we've partnered up in the past, and they will recognize right away that what I'm about to share is so deeply true. The I stands for people with integrity. People with integrity. That's number 1. If it doesn't have it, period. I'm not going to partner, period. That's it. It's just done. Why? Because, it's the number 1 thing. They can be smart, but if they don't have integrity, you're going to have trouble. It's going to come back and hunt you later on. So, that's number 1. And then the 4 C's, it's for clarity, commitment, consistency, and character. Okay, clarity. The person has to be clear, has to have clarity of where they're going, why they're doing what they're doing, what is their clear path, what is their why. When you have clarity in your life, guess what? The runway is much easier to run. The pathway is much easier. You'll advance really, really fast. You gotta have clarity. The person, so this is what I look in the person. Integrity, I look for clarity. The person needs to know their why. They need to know, and be clear on why is it that they're doing what they're doing, all right? The second C is committed. the person has to be committed, has to be committed to the deal that we're going to do, to the embarkment, to the, project, to the company. It needs to be, committed to the relationship, committed to themselves, committed to their family. The third C, it's got to be consistent. The person has to be consistent. If I notice that the person only, it works 1 or 2, 3 days, but wants 4, 5, 6 days off, then the person is not being consistent. Not only consistent in action, but consistent in his character, in the words, in beliefs, consistent on everything, ladies and gentlemen. And then the last one is character. The person has to have a great character, a positive mindset, an abundant character, a character that can get along with everybody, a character that it's a trustworthy character, a character that when the going gets tough, they're gonna basically sweat it off and go to work and make it happen even 10 times harder. So keep that in mind. How I select my partners is through the I4C, for the I4Cs. And the I4C stands for integrity, for clarity, for commitment, for consistency, and for character. If you implement that, you'll learn really, really fast that, you're going to be able to have great people to work with your contractors, with your managers, with, employees, with people that you come with. And it's interesting because it's very easy to determine it. If you're actually, if you study human behavior, you're going to learn really, really fast that how to tell about those, the I and the four C's that I implement. Anyways, we covered, ladies and gentlemen, just so before we conclude, and then if you got any questions, feel free to make them right now. We cover the 5 common mistakes that, most real estate investors make and how to avoid it. Mistake number 1, poor deal flow. And we spoke about how to correct it. Number 2, lack of funding. Number 3, management, not having great managers, property managers, or contractors. Number 4, it's about lack of knowledge of the market. And number 5, it's basically not having great construction evaluation processes. And the bonus mistake is basically, partnering up with the wrong people, and I can tell you that I've done all those mistakes, and those mistakes became challenges, and those challenges gave me stunning growth. Now you can avoid them, by literally making sure that you do something about what you heard here today. And hopefully you do. Congratulations for spending this time with me today. If there's any questions, feel free to, let's make it happen. If you got them, go ahead and type them up in your, in the chat. What CRM do I recommend? Ms. Larry, the one that I recommend is the one that I use. Now, it's not the only one that I would say. I don't know most of them. I only know the only one that I've used for the, for the longest, which is, it's realflow.com. Now, Realflow, it's real, R-E-A-L-E. I don't get paid, by the way, so, but anyways, that's the one that I recommend because it's the one that I use, and we use it very heavily, Keep in mind, we've probably analyzed, easily over 10,000 deals, in the past couple, in the past couple of 2.5 years or so. So it is important to know that we do use it quite massively. So anyways, any other questions that you guys got, So that's the one that I recommend. Congratulations for being in this webinar. Make sure that you crush it. And on this Real Estate Talks, we're going to be seeing each other every Wednesday at 12 noon for about 35 to 40 minutes. So congratulations for being here today. We'll see each other next Wednesday. Thank you.